What is up, RotoGrinders? We got, as it stands right now, a one-man booth for some NBA crunch time. We're going to talk some cash, going to talk some tournaments, start with things on Fanduel and pivot to DraftKings after that. But as it stands right now, I'm a man down, so I'm going to be doing a little bit of hosting, a little bit of tournament talk, giving you my favorite place for cash, favorite place for tournaments. And we're going to start going through this thing. Maybe we'll have somebody joining me as we start going, but may just be of 30 minutes of your friendly face, TJ Zwarich, here with you. But regardless, let's start breaking this slate down. We got a 4-gamer, but we are not short for value whatsoever. We got jam-packed value, and one of the everybody's favorite plays of the day is Kyle Anderson, and we just got word that he is not, in fact, starting in this one. So I do think that makes him, we're going to wait and see once these projections update here. Maybe he'll no longer be projected for 32 minutes within a starting role. So if we bump this down to 28, all of a sudden he's not quite as lock and load of a cash game play as he was before. So we'll see if the projections update and take him out of there. But in the meantime, I don't think I'm going to include him as a cash game core play as he currently stands right now. But we'll see after the projections update here. Hit the like button if you're watching us on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Do me a favor, hit that like. Let's make this a very liked show, and we'll see where we're popping. We should have lots of time for the chat today, both in YouTube and the NBA Crunch Time Discord. I'll be checking the Discord out for I'll be checking the Discord out for QQs first, and then after that, I'll be going over to the YouTube chat. But make sure you hit the like button over there for us as well. I gotta just message something to producer Steve here quick. Hard to multitask. My apologies. There we go. All right, so let's start cash game. We're gonna start cash, talking on FanDuel, and our core plays here originally were going to be Steph Curry, Jeremy Grant, Kyle Anderson here from cards, but things have changed throughout the day. And if we sort here by RG value right now, not including Kyle Anderson, since we got Klay Thompson ruled out, we got Jordan Poole up here all the way at the top. I think Steph Curry is still going to be a priority pay-up option for me here today. But I look at a guy like Mo Wagner, great projection, as well as Jordan Poole, and they're going to be two cores for me. Because there are so many players I like at the point guard and shooting guard position today, it's kind of tough to just choose 4, but the 4 that I'm most interested today are going to be Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, D'Angelo Russell, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. To me, at this point, with the amount of value that we have on this slate, I think SGA and Steph kind of have to be core plays here. Like, I think they kind of have to be played in cash. But if you're not playing one of these two, you're focusing on solely one of them, I think my choice would be Curry. But if you have the cash, it is kind of tough to not go SGA. He is projected for more now. However, I think that we're still going to roll with the Curry core tag. Jordan Poole is the value you got to go with on this slate as well. And then I think you're choosing between D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Simons, and SGA for that last spot. For me personally, it's SGA, but I think Anthony Simons and Jordan Clarkson is actually fine there too. But for me, it's between Russell and SGA in that last spot. At the small forward position, and when we start pivoting to power forward as well, we still have Kyle Anderson as this top value right now, but that was before news that he was in the starting. He will not be in the starting lineup, so we're still going to wait for that to adjust. But in the meantime, I think Andrew Wiggins looks like a pretty necessary play in cash games today. He's 6'1". We got these Warriors who are missing some players today. Yes, it's a big spread, but they also got the highest total on the board. And I think these 3 Warriors are the ones that I'm most interested in getting to in cash. The other thing I will say is if you don't have D'Angelo Russell in your lineup, you better get Anthony Edwards there. To me, I think both of them are cash viable. They're both very strong plays, not necessarily core play tag, but they're both very strong. And I definitely think you need at least one of them in your cash game lineups or even tournament lineups today. Here at the power forward position, now that we're still kind of unsure about Anderson, I think Watford and Wagner are my two favorite sources of salary relief here today. I think Wagner's got a safer, a higher floor. He's safer, and I think he's got just as high of a ceiling as Watford. But if you want to go with both of them, I think that's fine. And then Jeremy Grant's at 8-2. If you're kind of going the mid-range build, you're not playing SGA and Curry today. You're only rolling with one of them. I think Jeremy Grant fits perfectly in the mid-tier lineup, as well as Andrew Wiggins if you didn't play him at the small forward position. Finally, at center, Yusuf Nurkic projects as the best option on the board today. I think he is totally fine for cash. If you land on Gobert, I have no problem with that one either. From a cash perspective, if I was going to need to save salary kind of last piece it today, the guy I'd want to be looking at would be Kevon Looney. I think he's kind of a safe last cash game piece. I would prefer Nurkic over Draymond Green if those are your two options at cash game, if you're kind of deciding between the two of them today. At tournaments, before I'm going to kind of snake order this, start at the bigs and go in reverse order position. You're looking for a pivot off of Nurk, pivot off of Gobert. I really like getting to Şengün and Bol in tournaments today. I think both Naz Reid and Robinson Earl are very interesting potential tournament cheap options today. And if I was running 150 lineups, I even think I'd include the likes of somebody like Christian Koloko in my pool today, just because it's not that strong of a position. I do kind of like eating the chalk here at the power forward position with Wagner and Watford. They are two of my favorite values on the slate here today. But if I was looking to pivot off of them, I'm looking at guys like Paolo Banchero, Jaden McDaniels. He's starting today, and I don't think many people are going to be getting to him in tournaments. And Lauri Markkanen, I think, is a very high upside option as well. This entire Orlando-Toronto game is a somewhat interesting game stack to me. Everybody's going to be playing these other three games, and this one has a big spread. But if this happens to stay close, I think this Orlando side could really pop off in this one as well. Getting to the guard position, I still like most of the guys that I mentioned in for potential cash as well. D'Angelo Russell, Jordan Poole, SGA, and Steph Curry. Those are kind of my four favorite guys to be going with today. If I'm not double paying up for SGA and Steph, then I'm making sure I get a guy like Anthony Simons in my lineup. And I would probably make sure today I had at least one of Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell in all of my lineups today, because it seems very unlikely that at least one of them doesn't go off and have a really big game. That's mostly where my priorities lie today. I'm going to answer a couple Fanduel questions here in the Discord before I switch it over to DraftKings. Favorite spend up for Fanduel single entry today. For me, it's SGA. I kind of think with the potential with his Q tag for half of the day today, and just a lot of people wanting to go to the Golden State side with the Klay Thompson resting, stuff like that. I think SGA would be my favorite spend up in tournaments, but my favorite thing to do in GPPs in general is just to play both SGA and Steph. I think you have the salary for it on a 4-game slate. I think a lot of people are going to be choosing between one or the other. In FanDuel Cast, SGA Watford or Clarkson and Grant. I think I would go with Clarkson and Grant in a cash game, but I do like the SGA Watford side a lot better in a tournament. So I'm going to rip this over to DraftKings quick here, and then I'm going to talk through the cash game plays, go through my favorite tournament plays, and then we got lots of time here left for some QQs. So on DraftKings today, it's a very similar story to it is on FanDuel. This is some of the closest salary comparisons we've seen on the two sites in a very long time. So I'm very happy with the Jeremy Grant core tag here on DraftKings, where he's a little bit cheaper. Jordan Poole, I think, is a necessary play on this slate. And again, I think you're going to be looking to want to play D'Angelo Russell or Anthony Edwards in your cash games. If you land on both, I have absolutely no problem with that. But I think one of them is going to be necessary for me today. but just going back to the position by position approach, Jordan Poole is my favorite guard. Anthony Edwards and Anthony Simons are going to be number 2 and number 3, very closely followed by D'Angelo Russell. If I'm choosing between one of SGA and Curry, my choice on DraftKings is going to be Curry just because of the 3-point upside that we have with him. So I'd probably put Curry here at the point guard position and then Poole in at the shooting guard. I think that's how your cash games need to begin today on DraftKings. I once again think it is reasonable to play both SGA and Curry, but maybe that can be a tournament type thing for you. Before I pivot off of guard here, I do really want to mention Fred VanVleet, a fantastic tournament option on DraftKings where 7-2 is just way too cheap for him. If you land on like a last piece with him in the utility position, I think that is a-okay as well on DraftKings today. At the small forward position, we have Anthony Edwards as the top option. I would love to try and get him in cash games today. The only reason I'm not locking him in here as a core play is just because you can see 4250, while it's doable, it can get kind of tough to fill that out there, especially if we're not looking to a guy like Kyle Anderson here. I'm going to
Speaking of core plays, I've arrived to save the day.
Hey, what is up? We got Robin here as I'm finally not doing this one solo anymore. I'm going to run through the DraftKings cash quick, and then I'll throw it to you to see if what your takes here on this slate are. That work with you?
Why don't I host and you tell us what we should be looking at in terms of tournaments and cash games?
Love it.
Yeah, because I'm kind of a little discombobulated. Got the bat signal sent out to me to come save the day, so here I am. So in terms of slate tonight, are you looking to play mostly on DraftKings or Fanduel? Are you splitting on this 4-game slate?
Only playing on FanDuel tonight, and what I will say is we just got Drew Eubanks ruled out. Josh Hart, a game time decision. Sorry, this was 11 minutes ago. I hadn't looked at the news, and so if Hart is in, I think that makes Watford a lot less interesting. However, with Eubanks being out, I think that does solidify a few minutes in there as well. But I'm only playing one lineup on FanDuel today, focusing mostly on NFL for tomorrow. But to be perfectly honest with you, I have not looked at my lineup since before this show started because I didn't know I was going to be running it solo.
Yes, I don't think most of us knew that. So who are you? I mean, you might have already hit on this. Like, which game are you focusing on the most here? It looks like that Golden State Houston game looks a little bit juicy. Minnesota Oklahoma looks fun. Which one do you like the most?
So I just want to run through a couple of potential cash plays here because I ran through DraftKings and FanDuel cash already, and then I kind of left them hanging at the power forward position here. So I want to run that quick, and then I'll answer that one. And so Watford specifically, power forward center on DK. If we get Josh Hart ruled out now alongside Eubanks, I think this is a core play, a lock in cash games today. If you get Josh Hart playing and starting, he was ruled doubtful earlier in the day, and now they're saying game time decision. That might just be like he's going to warm up. He's a game time decision, but they're still not planning on playing him. With Eubanks out and Hart out, Watford's your top value on the slate. If Hart is in, though, that's where we're starting to look somewhere else. I think Justice Winslow becomes a very interesting piece at small forward, power forward as well on DK. I like paying down for him over the likes of getting that mid-range of Draymond Green. And then at the center position, it's Watford if you want to play him there. Mo Wagner is fine on DraftKings. He's not as good as he is on FanDuel, but he's still a very strong value. And I do like those cheapies over Gobert and Nurkic. But if I'm choosing between Nurkic or Gobert, it's as a last piece, I need one or the other. It's going to be Nurkic for that one. For tournaments, because it's a small slate, I'm very interested in just kind of like stacking this up. And so everybody wants to play Golden State because Clay's out, right? And we want to play Poole, we want to play Curry. Wiggins is nice and cheap especially on FanDuel. And so if I'm doing that, I want to run it back with some Houston guys. If I'm playing a bunch of Golden State, I want to run it back with some Şengün today. Play a little Jalen Green in tournaments. Play a little Kevin Porter Jr. in tournaments. The same goes for this Minnesota OKC game. We're going to see a lot of people going to Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell, as they should. A lot of people playing Rudy Gobert, maybe not people not getting off the chalky Kyle Anderson because he's not in the starting lineup anymore, and people won't realize that. It's a Saturday. They're not setting their lineups. They didn't even know they were on crunch time. But for me, I want to look at a guy in that game like Jaden McDaniels, who he's in the starting lineup. We haven't really gotten to see what he's going to look like without Cat yet, because he had an illness as well. But now he's back here. He should be ready to go full force. So I love kind of adding him to my Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell, running it back with SGA on the other side. Maybe even a guy like Jeremiah Robinson Earl as a last piece cheapie, something like that, and just create game stack situations. Same thing with Toronto. Like if I want to play Fred VanVleet because he's underpriced today, I want to play some Pascal Siakam. Well, then I want to run it back with some, on DraftKings, I don't want to play Banchero as much as on Fanduel, but run it back with some Mo Wagner and create game stack scenarios as opposed to just picking the optimal plays from each side.
Did you mention Fultz at all when you were going over stuff?
No, and so Fultz, I think, is somewhat interesting, though. Like, just the fact that it is a back-to-back does have me a little bit worried that even though he's not, quote-unquote, more limited, that just if the game starts going haywire, I don't know how big his ceiling is going to be on the back-to-back. If they're just like, all right, he's good, and it's 30 minutes, then he's a strong play. But I'm wary of him tonight, just with it being a back-to-back.
Gotcha. All right. So from what it sounds like, that Golden State, like we were talking about, Golden State Houston game is the one that you're looking to stack up along with the Oklahoma City and Minnesota game as well.
It's basically just like for cash, it's weird because for cash, it's three teams we're targeting. It's Minnesota, it's Golden State, and Portland. If you're getting a player from one of those three teams in your cash game lineup at each position, that's great. That's really all you need. But because those are kind of the optimals, my favorite thing to do in tournaments is just forego a couple of the optimals of one of those teams and then just sub them back with run backs from these teams that are down by 10 points kind of thing.
Right. Gotcha. So what is your biggest leverage point tonight that you're looking at in terms of what people are doing? And sorry, my voice is a little messed up. I've been sick this week.
No, you're good. Flus are hitting kind of everybody right now. I think the biggest one for me is going to be this Minnesota news. Kyle Anderson's going to be the chalkiest value play on the board. This is a Saturday night. Everybody was projecting him to start and be a massive value. Now that he's not, they got McLaughlin back. They got Moore in the starting lineup with Jaden McDaniels back as well. Noel and Anderson were kind of looked at as the two of the top value players on the slate. And while I don't think either of them are bad, I don't think they're the same strong value plays they were earlier in the day. And I'd be looking to make a pivot, whereas I don't know if anybody else will be, or not anybody else, but I feel like a lot of people in the field won't be ready to make that pivot. If we do end up getting a question about Wendell Moore, who's in the starting lineup today after not really playing all year, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and then bang, 20 minutes the other game, he's still starting. I do think he's going to be kind of the first guy off the bench, and he may not be a closer if this is a close game. But on 3K on DraftKings, I do think he's viable. I don't think he's necessary on Fanduel.
Gotcha. I was just trying to look up Kyle Anderson's projected ownership to kind of go along with that point you were bringing home, where if he's not starting, a full fade on him in tournaments might make a ton of sense because of the ownership that he might be drawing based on the news that came out. So other than that, this Utah-Portland game, do you have a favorite play from that? I know you said you were targeting Portland. Is there someone that you're really high on in that game?
Yeah, so similar situations to where the Utah side isn't going to be as highly owned, which is kind of odd because they're actually the higher point total in this game, third highest one on the slate, but they're kind of all priced appropriately. Sexton is fine if you land on him as a last piece. Same with Olenek, it's okay. Clarkson is a great play on FanDuel, but DraftKings, he's priced up. These guys are kind of just okay in projections because they're priced appropriately. But then we look at the RG values of all these Portland guys because they're missing Dame Lillard. They're missing most likely Josh Hart, Drew Eubanks, all these different players in and out of their lineup. And so we got Simons, Grant, Nurkic, Winslow, Watford, all just looking as phenomenal plays, and even Shaden Sharp being a decent tournament value. So because of that, with all the people wanting to play the Portland side, as they should be, cash games, optimals, I'm just kind of looking at, like, if I were playing 3 lineups today, I'd prioritize Simons, Grant, Nurkic, Winslow in one of them, make my little Portland game stack, and then run it back with Utah guys. And the other team that I was focusing on Curry and Poole, I'd run it back with some Şengün and some Jalen Green or Kevin Porter. And then finally in the lineup that I was focusing on my Minnesota players, I would make sure I'm getting SGA on that team as well. And then maybe somebody like a Poku or Robinson Earl or Jalen Williams to run alongside with it. It's just really about, on it only being a 4-game slate and the chalk build being so heavy on Minnesota, Houston, Portland.
Right.
For tournaments, pivot off of one of those 3 teams and substitute it with runbacks of whoever you have the most of left.
And just to drive home the Kyle Anderson point, currently we have him projected as the 4th highest owned player on the slate at 35%. You might end up losing me. My computer is being silly again. So if I go down, I apologize.
No worries at all. And that's the thing with Kyle Anderson. Like, I think that'll drop a little bit. People will probably be ready. It probably drops to like 25, 30%. But now that he's not starting, he should only probably be like a 10, 15% guy. Probably not a cash game play. Maybe just like that last piece, okay, if you land on him, but definitely not a target. So that's somebody I think you want to look to pivot off of in tournaments. I believe I hit the Discord answers already, but over there on YouTube, got 150 people watching. Make sure you hit the like button for us. Do you want to pull some questions from there for now?
Yeah, let's do that. I still can't see anything, so I'm going off of just voices. I am literally Matt Murdock right now.
Oh, okay, got you. So I'll peek over to YouTube here. That's no problem at all. I just saw somebody mention in chat that like 0% Watford because Josh Hart is going to play. I don't think we have that. I think that don't say stuff like that in chat unless it's like a confirmed thing. If it's just a hunch, maybe don't drop things like that in chat because we don't want to confuse people. But what do we got here? DK Cash, Winslow and Olenek, or D'Angelo Russell and Kyle Anderson. I would go with the Winslow and Olenek side now after that Kyle Anderson news. I do think Moore is okay as a last piece on DraftKings. DK single entry. Already have Curry, Justice Winslow, and SGA. Oh, already have Curry. So Justice Winslow and SGA, or D'Angelo Russell and Edwards. That's tough. I think I'd go with the Edwards Russell side. I think, but that will be the chalkier side of the two of them. So if you want to differentiate your lineup, the Winslow SGA one I like quite a bit as well there. We got 4 minutes to lock. No more questions. And we hit the news. We crushed this, Rob. Thanks for your help today.
Hey, no problem. Do you like these shorter slates or do you prefer a larger slate?
I do like these shorter slates. I'm typically more profitable on these small slates. 4 is kind of the smallest that I would be really excited about, but the 4 to 7 is kind of my wheelhouse. I feel like a lot of people like the 6 to 8. Mm-hmm. I kind of like the 4 to 7 a little bit smaller for NBA. I kind of find it fun to find those mini edges. Like, to me, the biggest one, like if you're MMEing today and you run 5 to 10% Kyle Anderson, or you fade him and he finishes with 15 DK points, you're going to probably have a very big day today. I think a guy like Jaden McDaniels is a great tournament pivot who's not going to get very high owned because nobody knew if he was going to be back starting, and he wasn't he was projected in the starting lineup by some, not by others. But he's also a guy that gets a lot of his points by stocks, like steals and blocks, and he's very volatile. And so he's a great tournament play, but he's got that low floor and therefore doesn't project very well. So I don't think many people are going to be off on him. But he could be stepping into a very expanded role with Cat out. And because he's been out the last few games with an illness, we don't know. So I like in these 4-game slates when we're seeing heavy chalk, kind of just embracing a little bit of the uncertainty and thinking about it just straight game theory perspective. That's what I like. I typically do well in single game stuff for NBA and NFL because I like just thinking, okay, how will this game play out?
Right.
And I'm not always going to be right on that, but I'm pretty good at figuring out, well, if it plays out this way, who will be the top performers? If it plays out this way, who will be the top performers? And like anybody involved in sports betting, I'm right about 50% or less on how the game's going to go. I'm not always going to get that right, but the key is building those lineups for how you think that game is going to go. Like it doesn't really make sense to just plug in a bunch of high projected guys when if it's a blowout, X is going to happen. If it's not a blowout, X is going to happen. And it's all based on those projections are just based on the median projection of all of that. And so for me, I love in this smaller stuff, just getting to actually think of the game theory of each game and think of how each one will play out and try and base my teams on that. Whereas on a full slate, you don't have to do that as much because there's so many different players and so many different games. You just kind of have to take a lot of high projected ones here. But as we're getting up to lock here, we got you covered at scoresandodds.com. Speaking of sports betting, check it out for everything you need to make yourself a better sports bettor, including Parlay IQ. It's a brand new tool here at Scores and Odds with the Fanduel Sportsbook integration. Build you some optimized same game parlays based on thousands of games of simulated data. With a click of a button, you can bring that bet slip directly into the Fanduel Sportsbook. And the FanDuel Single Entry Series, here our sponsor of Crunch Time, is back for NFL. It's tomorrow. There's still some open seats. Don't forget to reserve your entry in the $5, $33, $100 tier and get in on the action for weekly and seasonal prizes. You can also sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook if you're in a legal sports betting state and take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. The new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1K. Terms and conditions apply. Whew!
Crushed it, TJ.
Thank you. A GPP of Kyle Anderson and Markkanen or Siakam and Moore. I would go Siakam and Moore in that situation. But ladies and gentlemen, we have just hit lock. We did it. Rob, thanks for coming to hang out. I'm sorry for ghosting you after you gave me your Black Panther 2 review the other day. But, I just wasn't in a space for that negativity.
It wasn't negative. I gave you a 6 out of 10. It was mediocre. Negativity would be like a 3 out of 10. It was.
You're right. You're right. But that's okay. We can agree to disagree on that one. I still love you. But we hit the QQs in Discord and in YouTube. We are at lock. Hit the like button on your way out of here. That will do it for this edition of Crunch Time. I'll be back on Crunch Time tomorrow for NFL with Luch and Dre in the morning. So make sure you check that one out. And on behalf of myself, Rob, and the RG team, we're out of here. Peace.